Hi all, today I am talking about the morphological and anatomical features of a gymnosperm, Cycas. The systematic position is class Cycadopsida, order Cycadales and the family Cycadaceae. The genus is Cycas. You might have noticed palm-like trees in gardens, and this belongs to the Cycas. The plants are short or medium-sized trees and look like palms. The Cycas is found both in cultivated or in wild state in tropical and subtropical region of the world. It exhibits many xerophytic characters. The genus is distributed in the eastern hemisphere. In India, it grows in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, Assam and Sikkim. It is an evergreen plant and is sporophytic. The plant body is differentiated into the stem, this is the stem portion, leaves and the roots. Some species coming under the genus Cycas are Cycas bedomi, Cycas pectinata, Cycas hircinalis, Cycas rumphi, Cycas revoluta and Cycas siamensis. Among this, Cycas revoluta and Cycas siamensis are commonly cultivated in gardens. Now, let us have a look into the morphological and anatomical features of the plant Cycas. As I have told you earlier, the plant body is differentiated into roots, stem and the leaves. Among this, the first one, roots. In the case of roots, the Cycas, there are two types of roots, the normal and coralloid root, that is normal root and the coralloid roots. Among this, the normal roots grow deep into the soil and form the taproot system. Later, it is replaced by adventitious roots. The function of the root is to fix the plant in the soil and to absorb water and minerals. In this picture, you can see the main root, that is the normal root. This is the normal root and this portion is represented by the coralloid roots. The coralloid roots are developed from the lateral branches of the main root, that is the lateral branches of the normal root is developing into the coralloid roots. Normally, the normal roots are positively geotropic, that is they will always grow down into the soil or will be towards the Earth's gravitational force. But some lateral roots of the main root grows negatively geotropic, that is grow above the soil. And these roots get infected with some kind of bacteria like Azotobacter, Pseudomonas radicicola and some fungi and some algae like Anabina, Nostoc, Oscillatoria, etc. Once it get infected with the bacteria and the fungus, the lateral root will divide dichotomously, that is the first it will divide into two, then the tip will again divide into two, that is known as dichotomous branching. Because of the repeated dichotomous branching, it will look like a swollen knob-like portions. And this knob-like portion will resemble coral reefs. That is why they are given with the name the coralloid roots. Now, coming on to the anatomical features of the coralloid root. The outermost layer is the periderm. This is the periderm. Outermost layer is the periderm and it consists of 2 to 5 layers of dead cells. Just below the periderm is the cortex. This portion is represented by the cortex. The cortex is divided into the outer cortex and inner cortex. The outer cortex, this is the outer cortex region and this is the inner cortex region. Both the outer cortex and inner cortex are occupied by parenchymatous cells. In the case of outer cortex, some of the cells will be having the tannin. See this, tannin. In between the outer cortex and the inner cortex, there will be a layer of algal zone. See this. This is the algal zone. Single layered. The cells will be pillar like and cells will be inhabited with the algae, Anabaena, nostoc and the oscillatoria. Innermost layer of the cortex is the endodermis. Innermost layer of the cortex is endodermis, this region. Endodermis, single layered endodermis. And inside the endodermis, you can see multi-layered pericycle here. You can see multi-layered parenchymatous pericycle. The vascular bundles are radial, just like in the case of normal root. The vascular bundles are radial. That is, the xylem patches will be alternating with the phloem patches. These are the phloem patches. These are the phloem patches. See this. These are the phloem patches and these are the xylem patches. Okay, so the root will be the radial. Xylem is triarch. Say this. Triarch condition of xylem. 3 groups of xylem. And all the 3 groups of the xylem will be alternating with the phloem. This is all about the anatomy of coralloid root. Now, coming on to the structure of a stem. The stem is thick, erect, aerial and usually unbranched. But in some cases, you can see the branches. The branching is due to some injury or due to the development of adventitious buds. The surface of the stem is covered by the persistent leaf bases. All over the surface of the stem, it will be covered with the persistent leaf bases. But in some cases, you can see only leaf scar. That is, when a leaf fall off, it will mark its area. See this. This is leaf scar. In some cases, you can see the leaf scar and in some cases, there will be persistent leaf bases. Now, coming on to the anatomical features of a stem. The outermost layer is made up of thick-walled, compactly arranged cells. The epidermis is ruptured due to the presence of leaf base on the stem. Inner to the epidermis is the cortex. The cortex is occupied by the parenchymatous cell and are filled with a number of starch grains. There will be numerous mucilage canals. These are the mucilage canals, numerous mucilage canal in cortex. In the cortex, you can see the leaf traces. See, these are the leaf traces. Like in the case of dicot stem, the vascular cylinder consists of many conjoined, collateral, open vascular bundles arranged in the form of a ring, that is conjoined collateral open vascular bundles. But in the case of xylem, the xylem consists of tracheids and xylem parenchyma. Vessels are totally absent. Likewise, in the case of phloem, it consists of sieve tube and phloem parenchyma. Companion cells are totally absent. The central region is occupied by the pith. This is the central region which is occupied by pith. It consists of parenchymatous cells, and these parenchymatous cells will be rich in starch content. This is all about the structure of a normal stem. In the case of Cycas, the stem undergoes secondary thickening, and the secondary thickening is same as in the case of normal dicot stem. First, a complete ring of secondary cambium is produced. A complete ring of secondary cambium is produced. Then the secondary cambium will cut xylem towards the center. It will cut xylem towards the center and phloem towards the periphery. Once the activity of the first ring of cambium is finished, it will produce a second ring of cambium from the cortex. A second ring of cambium in the cortex. It will also produce xylem towards the center and phloem towards the periphery. Likewise, the third, fourth and fifth ring of cambium is produced outside the previous ring. This is all about the structure of stem in the case of Cycas. Now, coming on to the structure of leaf. The leaves are seen as crown on the apex of the stem. The Cycas shows leaf dimorphism, that is, two types of leaves are produced by the Cycas. The first one is foliage leaf. First one is called a foliage leaf, F-O-L-I-A-G-E, foliage leaves or normal leaves. And the second type of leaf is the scale leaf. Scale leaves. The scale leaves are small, dry, brown and a triangular structure with a thick covering of hairs of ramenta. You can see the scale leaves here. These are the scale leaves. See this, scale leaves. These are small, dry, brown, triangular structure with a thick covering of hairs of ramenta. R-A-M-E-N-T-A, hairs of ramenta. The functionality of the scale leaf is protecting the apex and the reproductive structures. Now coming on to the foliage leaves. The foliage leaves are pinnately compound. It carries a central axis, central rachis. See this one, this is known as rachis. These are pinnately compound. Pinnately compound. When the leaf is young, it shows circinate vernation. See this, circinate vernation. The leaf will be infolded when it is young, and this condition is known as circinate vernation. A crown of foliage leaf is produced annually on the apex of the stem. Now, coming on to the anatomical features of a leaf, when you take TS of the leaflet, you can see a central midrib portion and two lateral wings. The leaflet will be with an upper epidermis and a lower epidermis. The upper epidermis is covered with a thick layer of cuticle. You can see a lower epidermis. See, this is the lower epidermis. The continuity of the lower epidermis is interrupted due to the presence of sunken stomata. That is, the stomata is restricted to the lower epidermis only. Just below the upper epidermis is the hypodermis, sclerenchymatous hypodermis, This is 2 to 3 layer in thickness, and the sclerenchymatous hypodermis will be running all over the surface of the leaflet. Just above the lower epidermis also, you can see the hypodermis, but the hypodermis is restricted only to the midrib region. Just below the hypodermis is the mesophyll tissue. This is the mesophyll tissue. The mesophyll tissue is differentiated into upper palisade and lower spongy. The palisade cells are pillar-like and compactly arranged and will be single-layered. It carries chlorenchyma and are photosynthetic in function. The spongy tissue consists of parenchymatous cells which are loosely packed with the intercellular spaces and are seen just above the lower epidermis. The central region is occupied by the vascular bundle. Central region is occupied by the vascular cylinder. It includes xylem, phloem and the cambium. So, the vascular bundles are conjoined, collateral and open type. The xylem is diploxylic, Diploxylic. Xylem is diploxylic. That is, you can see two groups of xylem. This is one group and this is the second group. The large one is known as centripetal, and the lower group is known as centrifugal. So, due to the presence of centripetal and centrifugal xylem, the xylem is diploxylic in the case of Cycas. Just below the xylem, you can see the cambium. See, this is the cambium, and below the cambium is the phloem. This region is the phloem. In Cycas leaflet, you can see some parallelly running parenchymatous cells in between the palisade and spongy tissue. Parallelly arranged parenchymatous cells in between the palisade and spongy tissue, and these are known as transfusion tissue. Transfusion tissue. The main functionality of the transfusion tissue is the supply of water from the vascular cylinder to the wings. On both sides, you can see the transfusion tissue, and normally it will be 3 layered. And this is all about the anatomy of the leaflet in Cycas. Now, coming on to the anatomy of rachis. The rachis carries an upper epidermis and a lower epidermis. Here also you can see stomata on the lower epidermis and is sunken stomata. Just below the epidermis is hypodermis. Hypodermis, this region is hypodermis. The vascular bundles are arranged in the form of letter omega. See, inverted omega, letter omega. There will be numerous conjoined collateral open vascular bundles. The central region is occupied by the ground tissue. This region is known as the ground tissue. Now, coming on to the vascular bundle, just like in the case of leaflet, you can see this diplocylic xylem. See, the diplocylic xylem, that is centripetal and centrifugal xylem, and just below the xylem is the cambium, and below the cambium you can see phloem. The vascular bundles are surrounded by single layered sclerenchymatous bundle sheath. In the case of rachis, this is all about the morphological and anatomical features of Cycas.